There are many who believe the North American P-51 Mustang is the aircraft responsible for turning the tides of World War II. I'm Paul Max Moga, and I've flown some of the most sophisticated planes ever built. I'm here at the Military Aviation Museum in Virginia Beach, Virginia, home to one of the largest private collections of restored warplanes in the world. The P-51 is my personal favorite. I've got a handful of hours in her, and I can tell you, she's an absolute dream. On this episode of Great Planes, we'll learn the incredible story of the P-51 Mustang. In its day, it was known as the most aerodynamically perfect pursuit plane in existence. The P-51 Mustang is one of the last, and perhaps the greatest, of the mass-produced piston engine fighters. It was originally designed for Britain during World War II, but because of the U.S. Army Air Force's initial reluctance to adopt the plane, it almost became the costliest mistake made by the U.S. in World War II. At the end of the 1930s, Germany invades Poland, bringing World War II closer to Europe. The British Royal Air Force needs to quickly increase their fighter strength. With no time to wait for a new design, they immediately approached the United States for fighting aircraft. The only fighters the Americans can offer the British are the Curtiss P-40 Warhawks. The British want the P-40s since they meet European standards and are readily available. Unfortunately, Curtiss Aeroplane and Motor Company is unable to keep up with the demands of production, so the British look for another company that can build the P-40s. They are extremely impressed with North American Aviation, which is already under contract with them to build training aircraft. The company is a relative newcomer to aircraft manufacturing, having started just 5 years earlier. North American's approach to mass manufacturing with moving assembly lines and automation simplifies production, allowing them to produce a better product at a faster rate. They quickly become recognized as a leader in constructing aircraft. The British Air Purchasing Commission approaches North American to adopt and build the P-40 aircraft. Although they want to comply with the request, North American is not thrilled about building a rival manufacturer's airplane. The president of North American, J.H. Kindleberger, an astute engineer and persuasive salesman, convinces the Royal Air Force that he can design and build an entirely new advanced fighter, one that will be better than the P-40. This new fighter will fly faster, higher, and longer, be more maneuverable, and pack more firepower. And he can have a prototype ready for them in 120 days. The British trust North American because of the excellent work they did for them on their training planes, and agreed to purchase this new plane. Because it's cheaper and can be delivered faster, the British order it in large numbers. North American engineers work hard to merge smooth contours with simplicity of form as quickly as they can. They use the same Allison engine that's on the P-40. A liquid-cooled engine proven to be sturdy and dependable. On October 26, 1940, North American finishes its prototype, the NA-73X. It's completed just 3 days before the 120-day schedule. The plane is constructed of mostly metal, aluminum, and aluminum alloy. After 70,000 man-hours, the team performs a remarkable feat, and the success of the design is immediately recognized. Test pilot Vance Breese flies it for the first time. The plane reaches a speed of 382 miles per hour at 15,000 feet, beating the P-40 by 25 miles per hour. On December 9, 1940, the British tell North American that they have given the new aircraft a name, the Mustang. The U.S. Army Air Corps keeps 2 of the Mustangs for evaluation and places orders for the plane with the new designation, P-51. The plane has an excellent airframe, is fast, maneuverable, and long-ranged. The limitations placed on it by the Allison engine make it ideal only for tactical support and reconnaissance missions.
My name is Walt Ulrich. I served as a Navy aviator for 32 years.
I remember hearing something about the design of the wing. It was a very unique aerodynamic, almost a breakthrough.
Oh, it certainly was. They called it a laminar flow wing.
Laminar flow wing.
And it was very efficient.
Yep.
And so the combination of the engine and the wing is what really made the P-51 a standout.
The Mustang's speed comes from its laminar flow wing, which shifts the thickest part of the wing back as far as possible to reduce friction, thus cutting down drag and increasing speed and range. Unfortunately, this inhibits their low speed performance, and the Allison engine does not perform well above 17,000 feet because of its lack of a supercharger. After extensive testing, the U.S. Army Air Corps comes to the conclusion that the Mustang would not be good as a fighter, and decides to order the planes to be used as dive bombers. On April 16, 1942, they ordered 500 of these aircraft, named the A-36A Apache or A-36A Invader. Although pilots still call it the Mustang. These are the first American Mustangs to fight in the war. With the low-level restriction of the Allison engine, they are fitted with cameras and also used for ground attacks. But the U.S. Army Air Corps quickly realizes that this new P-51 Mustang has a serious flaw, one that could make it extremely vulnerable in battle. During its long service career, the P-51 served in the air forces of at least 25 countries around the world. In 1942, the U.S. Army Air Corps uses the new P-51 Mustangs for dive bomb and tactical air support missions. Dive bombing is inherently dangerous. The typical dive profile starts from 8,000 to 10,000 feet at 90 degrees nose low, trying to keep the airspeed below 400 miles per hour.
Maximum deployment was about 435. Just cruising was maybe 235, something in that range.
She could get up and go.
Oh, yes, it did. Very efficient.
But the U.S. quickly realizes that the Mustang has a weakness, one that causes them to be more susceptible to attack. At low altitude, it is speedy and agile, but the Mustang's Allison engine loses power as the plane climbs, leaving it sluggish and unresponsive. It is relegated for use on tactical missions, supporting ground troops, photographic reconnaissance, or flying cover on a battlefield. In combat, the new Mustangs are vulnerable. One of their weakest spots is the cooling system. A single bullet through a radiator or pipe is enough to destroy a P-51. As dive bombers, the Mustangs are not successful. The moment the plane breaks its dive, it is completely exposed. If the Mustang avoids the diving attack and simply roars along at low level, its speed protects it. The Mustangs used in low-level missions are powerful weapons. A squadron of Mustangs makes a very effective punch as airborne artillery. In addition to the 500 dive bombers, 1,083 of the Allison-powered Mustangs are built, all for low-level rolls. They are capable of carrying a 500-pound bomb under each wing, and a variety of machine guns mounted in the center of each wing. The wing is so thin that guns can't be positioned upright and have to be placed so that they almost rest on their sides. This arrangement leads to difficulties in loading and unloading the guns. They also have two 50 caliber machine guns in the nose, positioned under the engine in a staggered fashion. The machine guns are very accurate when attacking ground targets, and their low-level performance makes them excellent at skip bombing, dropping the bomb short of the target so that it bounces into position to explode. Because of their shortcomings, the early Allison-equipped Mustangs are often overlooked, but their work is a pivotal part in the pursuit of victory. A few years into the war, the United States Army Air Corps organizes Allied air operations in Burma. Burma lies between China and India and is surrounded on three sides by high mountains. As the Allies fight their way across this rugged terrain, the lack of any roads or railways forces the troops on the ground to become almost totally reliant on air support for supplies and artillery. The situation on the ground is much more treacherous during the monsoons. The flooding rivers cause an enormous loss of supplies. During the wet season, both sides grind to a halt in the mud, in conditions so horrible that even the legendary C-47s are incapable of making it through. To fly planes in this environment requires daring, determination, skill, and lots of luck. In their attack role, the Mustangs come through. With forward air control direction, the pilots are able to deliver accurate tactical support and clear obstacles ahead of the troops. Their constant harassment keeps the enemy unbalanced. The Allison engine Mustangs are regarded by their pilots with great affection, as long as they are used within their limitations. They are also a pleasure to fly, responsive, and very controllable. These Mustangs, designated A-36As, fly over 23,000 combat missions, claiming 84 enemy aircraft. With the obvious capabilities of the Mustang, it is finally suggested that this highly effective plane should be given a better engine. The British recommend the Rolls-Royce Merlin, the same engine as the illustrious Spitfire. In October 1942, the American engine manufacturer Packard comes to an agreement with Rolls-Royce to build the 1,300 horsepower Merlin 61 engine with its two-speed, two-stage supercharger. Like the Allison, the Merlin is a 12-cylinder liquid-cooled engine, but has a better power-to-weight ratio. After successful trial installations by Rolls-Royce, North American's engineers go to work. The Mustang undergoes some changes in housing this new engine, giving the plane overall better lines. The propeller now has 4 broad blades instead of 3, which turns power into thrust in the thin air of higher altitudes. The carburetor inlet above the engine is repositioned below the propeller. The fuselage is strengthened, and there are refinements to the radiator and its ducting. The 30 caliber guns are replaced with 4 50 caliber Browning machine guns. The new plane is a substantial advancement to the earlier models.
When they adapted the Rolls-Royce Merlin to the P-51, that made it a fantastic fighter. They realized that with the airframe they had, if they could marry it to the Rolls-Royce Merlin, they really had a winner.
So they had the right airframe, and once they found the right engine, you know, what did that really allow the Mustang to do performance-wise, and why was that important in World War II?
Well, I'll tell you, that extra altitude enabled them to escort the B-17 bombers all the way across Europe.
In November 1942, the new P-51B Mustang is tested and flies 50 miles per hour faster at a remarkable 30,000 feet. At altitude, it can now outperform anything in the sky. Its top speed is 440 miles per hour, with an increased rate of climb and power reserve. The Mustang has become the ultimate fighter, as it was originally intended, and is ready to re-enter the war. Rolls-Royce's senior test liaison, Ronald Harker, lobbied to fit the P-51 with the Merlin engine. In 1997, 56 years after the P-51 first entered service with the RAF, Ronald Harker took his final flight in a Mustang at the age of 88. The coupling of the American Mustang airframe and the British Rolls-Royce Merlin engine creates a piston aircraft unmatched by any other. The United States Army Air Corps orders 2,200 of these new powerful fighters and is eager to enlist them into the war. Testing of the new planes is quickly completed, and in 1943, Mustangs are pouring onto the battlefield in massive numbers. The planes are produced at 2 major plants. Those from Inglewood, California are P-51Bs, and the identical product from the Dallas, Texas plant become P-51Cs. The first combat group supplied with the Merlin-powered P-51 is the 354th Fighter Group out of England. But they soon realized this little plane is not being used to its full potential. With a 425-gallon tank, the Mustangs have always had a large fuel capacity, and they only consume half the fuel of other planes. This gives them a huge advantage in range, capable of flying 1,080 miles. With additional drop tanks added to the wings, they can fly 2,600 miles. They are the obvious choice to escort the massive daylight bombing raids against Germany. The 8th Air Force is crying out for a plane with the Mustang's capability. Their bombers are taking very heavy losses from Luftwaffe pilots. They need an escort fighter that can stay with them deep into occupied territory and get them home as well. The North American P-51 Mustang is the immediate choice. The Mustangs find their element, and with the additional wing-mounted fuel tanks, they roam the skies over Europe. They not only support the bombers, but also take the battle to the Luftwaffe. The Mustang's speed and maneuverability allows them to fly low and bomb targets that are too small for the high-altitude bombers. Their destruction of German aircraft and fuel factories causes a massive decline in the production of new fighters. Due to these raids, fewer enemy planes are even able to take off because of a severe shortage of parts and fuel. As escorts, they are the first effective shield, and with their protection, the Luftwaffe is now on the defensive and less of a threat to the bombers. As the Mustangs multiply, it is clear that there is simply no better bomber escort anywhere. Their availability only increases Allied dominance of the air over Europe. The Luftwaffe's pilots are unprepared for this incredible new fighter plane. For the Mustang pilots, there is comforting knowing they are flying the best performance fighter. The bomber crews, who previously flew into the teeth of German defenses alone, feel a sense of security now that they have the Mustang protecting them. They operate beside the tired P-40s of the nationalist Chinese, the planes of the famous American volunteer group, the Flying Tigers. The 356th Fighter Squadron, flying from England, is the home of Major James Howard, one of the Flying Tiger aces, whose Japanese victories are painted onto his distinctively marked plane when he arrives in Europe. He is famous for his incredible bravery on January 11, 1944, when alone he takes on more than 30 German planes, mostly Messerschmitt 110s that attack a group of B-17s. The battle lasts 30 minutes as bomber crews witness Howard's heroic fight in his P-51B Mustang. He is credited with 3 definite and 3 probable victories in the encounter. On June 5, 1944, Major Howard receives the Congressional Medal of Honor for his action on that day. The only fighter pilot in the European theater of operations in World War II to be given this award. The impact of the Mustangs on Germany is reflected in a comment by Hermann Goering, Commander-in-Chief of the German Air Force. When he looked into the skies over Berlin and saw Mustangs shepherding Allied bombers, he knew that Germany had lost the war. The Mustang's range and power quickly establishes air superiority against the outdated enemy planes. Their arrival on every front makes a tremendous difference, and the effect of this amazing fighter is felt throughout the war. One of the few criticisms the Royal Air Force makes of the P-51B Mustang is a complaint about the canopy. It doesn't allow the pilot to look behind him, and a tall pilot is cramped against the top of the canopy. Robert Malcolm, squadron leader in the Royal Air Force, is solicited to come up with a solution to this problem. Other than poor visibility, the only other shortcoming of the B and C model Mustangs is its armament. Pilots report the guns jam during high G maneuvers. Plus, the planes only have 4 50 caliber Brownings, and the pilots want more firepower. Based on the Royal Air Force's recommendation, Robert Malcolm designs a new canopy for the Mustang. The visibility looks great. Nice bubble canopy. You can see in all directions, forward, left, right, behind you if somebody's lucky enough to get there, and be ready to go.
Bubble canopy was a real lifesaver.
The Malcolm hood, a single-piece canopy that slides on runners, is a perfect addition to the already existing shape of just about any plane. While redesigning and testing this new canopy, North American Aviation focuses on making additional improvements to the Mustang that enhance its fighting capabilities. On November 6, 1944, fighter ace and aviation legend Chuck Yeager was the first to shoot down a jet-powered German Me-262 with his Mustang Glamorous Glen, named after his wife.
Wanting a more lasting solution to the canopy problem on the P-51 B and C model Mustangs, North American Aviation modifies it with a teardrop-shaped canopy. Pilots of the new P-51 Mustang now have greater visibility from the cockpit, as the teardrop canopy gives them an unobstructed 360-degree view.
This new canopy not only fits older versions of the Mustang, but just about any other plane as well. North American's Los Angeles factory in Inglewood is extremely vulnerable to Japanese bombing, so it is cloaked with extensive camouflage, which disguises the buildings and covers the outdoor run-up lines. Under these nets, the Mustangs are rolled out, tuned, and tested. Inglewood produces the next Mustang model, the D, with its new teardrop canopy and other refinements.
The airplane has two 92-gallon fuel tanks in the wings, but in its military role, it also had an 85-gallon tank in the fuselage behind the pilot. This particular weight and balance system was a little bit touchy as far as balance goes for the airplane. So they had to be very careful that they burned down that rear tank first.
The cut down back from the new canopy leads to a loss of surface area on the spine of the plane. This causes directional stability problems, so they add a dorsal fin for enhanced control.
The wings are redesigned to fit 3 50-caliber Brownings in each, which brings the total to 6. And the repositioning eliminates previous jamming problems. The inner gun carries 400 rounds, and the two outer guns have 280 rounds each, giving the fighter a devastating punch. The P-51D with the new canopy, dorsal fin, and 6 guns represents the most typical Mustang. It has a 37-foot wingspan and is 32 feet 3 inches long, with a height of just over 8 feet. The P-51D is complete, both offensively and defensively, and has become the most dominant aircraft in the war. North American Aviation, with its excellent organization and speed, delivers close to 8,000 D-model Mustangs in 1944 alone. Once completed, the planes are towed to the run-up lines for dispatch to the war. The heavy bombing in Europe continues, and the P-51Ds swarm in large numbers. They are the critical edge supporting the Allies' drive for air supremacy. The Luftwaffe continues to throw its resources against the onslaught, while they lose their cities, aviation plants, fuel, and transportation systems. The Nazis have no choice and press their defense to the limit, but it costs them dearly in pilots and planes. The Mustangs still have their punch as ground attack aircraft, and since they're already deep over enemy territory escorting the bombers, it's easy for them to attack transports and Luftwaffe targets as they make their way back to base. On March 4th, 1944, for the very first time, Mustangs support the bombers on the 1,100-mile round trip to Berlin. This long-range capability of the Mustang is used routinely in deep strike missions. In their activity during the war, the Mustangs fly over 213,000 missions, with close to 5,000 German planes claimed as shot down and an estimated 4,000 destroyed on the ground. The aerial victories account for almost half the total claimed by all American units during the war after the arrival of the P-51. For the United States, there are just over 2,500 Mustangs lost, due to being shot down, mechanical failure, or because of pilot error. In this footage, a pilot's mistake shows the horrific result of two Mustangs colliding during a ground sweep and plowing into the ground. The Mustang outperforms all the piston engine fighters the Luftwaffe is able to deploy. It maintains its supremacy in the air until the emergence of the German jet and rocket fighters. In a war of attrition, the Germans are running out of fuel, aircraft, and experienced pilots. As a last effort, they unleash their new jet fighters, like the Messerschmitt Me-262. While the Me-262 is faster than the Mustang in high-altitude combat, the Mustang can outmaneuver and outlast the Messerschmitt, which has limited endurance. The P-51s ambush the jets at landing and takeoff, and overwhelm them in huge numbers in the dogfights around the bombers. The Mustangs are no match for the jets in speed, flying 100 miles per hour slower. Fortunately for the Allies, the Nazis deployed their jets too late and in too small numbers. Even faster is the Me-163 Comet rocket plane, popularly known as the Devil's Sled, which can reach nearly 600 miles per hour. The rockets take off before they are fully developed and are extremely dangerous to fly. They carry only a limited amount of fuel and spend a large part of each flight unpowered, gliding back to base. At its highest speed, it is immune to attacks from the Mustangs. But its extremely limited range makes it ineffective against the long-range bombers. Pilots take off on a jettisonable undercarriage trolley and then land without power on the plane's belly. The rockets are extremely perilous and pay a high price for their speed. As it is gliding back to land, the 163 is vulnerable to attack and unable to defend itself.
L. Taylor Jr., and as a past president of the Howard Ball Chapter, Tuskegee Airmen here in the great city of Petersburg, I can speak for the Tuskegee Airmen. P-51 Mustang, that was definitely the best airplane that came out of World War II. It could dive steeper, make rolls better, high speed of brake, flight, and just a good airplane, period.
The Tuskegee Airmen, the first black air combat group, are readily identified with the P-51 Mustang.
The tails were painted red, and that's where the nickname for the Tuskegee Airmen came from, the Red Tail Angels. That in itself gave you pride in knowing that, hey, this is a red tail plane. We're going out to escort bombers And the bomber crews always looked for that red tail because they knew if a Tuskegee Airman was flying that plane, that bomber was going to be safe to the destination and get back home safe. They knew that automatically, and that happened in most cases.
When the war reaches Japan, the Mustangs are the first choice to cover the bombers. The Japanese Air Force is already destroyed in Asia and the Pacific. Their pilots are wiped out, and their designs are outdated but still in production. They are no match for the newer and more powerful American planes. The Japanese quickly lose their dominance in the air. As public appreciation for the Mustang has grown, their value has skyrocketed. After their wartime service, surplus P-51 Mustangs were auctioned from storage for less than $2,000. They are now valued at $750,000 or more. As the war reaches Japan, the United States captures the island of Iwo Jima after a ferocious 5-week battle. Within weeks of landing on Iwo Jima, airstrips are prepared for the strategic bombing campaign against the Japanese homeland. On April 7, 1945, 6 squadrons of P-51s head to Nakajima, near Tokyo, to escort B-29s on their first bombing mission of Japan. The Japanese lose 21 aircraft trying to attack the formation and destroy only 2 Mustangs. The Japanese fail to shoot down any B-29s. Fighter-protected bombing raids are unstoppable, and the bomber pilots love the Mustangs, calling them little friends. Another Mustang group is deployed in late April, and by June they have flown 832 missions. Stripped of cover, Japan is open to attack. The Japanese population is engulfed in the sense of terror from the air. For the Japanese airmen, simply taking off becomes an act of bravery. In combat, they are forced to fight advanced pilots, flying far superior aircraft, in greater numbers with better weapons. Their planes are swatted from the sky. On the ground, they are hammered by Mustangs that torment them from treetop height. The Japanese Air Force cannot defend itself, let alone Japan. The last months of the war are a testimony to the stubbornness and pride of the Japanese government. finally, with the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the Japanese collapse. On August 14th, Hirohito, the Emperor of Japan, surrenders, and the P-51s fly their last mission. With the success of the Mustang and other designs like the B-25 Mitchell, North American Aviation produces more planes during World War II than any other American manufacturer. Over 15,000 P-51 Mustangs, all types, are built from 1940 to 1945. After the war, the Mustangs stay in active service and are also used by the Air National Guard. The Mustangs are not like most of their fighter contemporaries from the war, fading from use. The newly reorganized United States Air Force keeps the Mustangs, while jets are developed and manufactured in large numbers. There are even several post-war versions of the Mustang. The F-82 twin Mustang, with two Allison engines, was used mainly as a night fighter. On June 25, 1950, the North Korean Army crosses the border into South Korea, and the Mustangs are in action again. A number of Mustangs, now called F-51s, are put back into active service. And in the first year of the war, they fly more combat missions than any other Air Force plane. Despite heavy losses, they are still used. They are the only aircraft available in large numbers, with long-range capability, and can carry enough weapons to do some major damage. Usually loaded with bombs and rockets, they fly over dangerous mountain terrain, which leaves them little chance of a successful forced landing. And their liquid-cooled engines are exposed to ground fire again. The Mustang, outdated and flying in a mission that makes them vulnerable, is still a weapon of great destructive power. In the early phases of the war, it is the ferocity of the Mustang fighter bombers that buys time for the 8th Army to dig in around Pusan and halt the rush of the North Korean Army. But against the MiG-15, the Mustang is more of a target than an opponent. Its days as the world's premier fighter are behind it. Back with the National Guard, the United States uses them into the mid-50s, and a few are used as chase planes for another 20 years. The P-51s are used all over the world. They form the backbone of the infant Israeli Air Force, and fly in combat in large numbers for the last time in the 1956 Desert War. They stay frontline planes for the Dominican Republic and Indonesia into the 70s. They are also the planes of choice for many civil pilots, for aerobatics, racing, or simply for pleasure. Their power, coupled with their dependable airframe, gives them a uniqueness that is unmatched. The P-51 Mustang is highly regarded as the best American combat and performance fighter ever designed.
The pilots liked it. It was a pilot's plane, and everything in the cockpit was well organized, and you just felt at home.
Oh, she's a dream.
Oh, it is a dream airplane.
The Mustangs that are still flying are maintained with such fanaticism that they will probably be with us for decades to come.
The P-51 Mustang is one of aviation history's elite aircraft. During World War II in Europe, it had a kill ratio of 11-1, making it one of the highest scoring fighters of the war. Over its long and distinguished service career, the Mustangs are used as trainers, transports, ground attackers, interceptors, and bomber escorts. After the war, they become excellent racers. The versatility and high performance of this remarkable airframe makes it one of the world's legendary aircraft.